Hello everyone, this is day 3 of the Design Sprint Session Template Walkthrough. If you have any questions about what you see in this video, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, in email, or on the GVDS number 6 Slack, and I'd be more than happy to help you with it. Let's get right into it. So the first hour of day 3 is going to be spent storyboarding, and the exercise in the very beginning is meant to introduce you to the concept of storyboarding by telling the incredible story of your particular team. The way it works is that everyone puts their name and their avatar in this space, and one person starts off with once upon a time and then starts to tell the story. Once that person gets done telling their part of the story, the next person continues, and the next person continues, all the way down until the last team member says, in the end, this particular thing happened. So it's a kind of a fun thing to do. It is optional, but if you'd like to try it out, please do so. Then after you do that, you want to go ahead and get into the experience map and the winning solution sketch for reference. Take some time to kind of copy over what you did in day 2 to kind of reflect on how you saw the experience, your targets, and then this winning solution sketch, because you'll be doing a lot of work off of that for sure. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them to your team so that everyone's on the same page, and also point out any gaps you see in the solution sketch that you want to take forward into the prototyping session. First step is to look at all the skills and abilities that everyone brings to the table. The reason you do this is in the past, we've just kind of assumed that the designer, developer, and anybody else that has some design chops would be the people that do the prototype for the entire team. And that's probably a bad idea because it puts too much stress and pressure on 1 or 2 people to perform, and everyone else just kind of does what they need to do until they see something to react to. In the GVDS, the prototype is a team sport, meaning that everyone contributes in their own meaningful way. So what you should do here is put in your skills and abilities related to who you are, and also the learning curves that you're on. So if you see something that someone else does very well, you can go, oh, I'd like to learn from this person. It's an opportunity to partner up with them for the prototyping stage. Once you put in your skills and abilities, you can go ahead and put them somewhere in this grid, where the y-axis is how good you are at your work, and the x-axis is how long it takes you to do the work. This is to give everyone an idea of what people can do very well and very effectively in terms of time, and what things people do very well but need more time, and then other things where they can do it really well but they're not quite sure that they have the skill or the chops to do it. And it's just basically a high-level view of what everyone can bring to the table, and it'll also speak to how you prioritize your prototyping work. So the next step is to create a storyboard flow from your solution sketch. And over here on the right, even though you put it in your review section, is another place for your solution sketch. You'll be copying in 2 places. What you're going to do is take a look at the solution sketch and look how it starts and ends. And you're going to decide on the first step that the solution sketch kind of points to. This is going to be common all the way down this column. There's going to be no deviation in this first step. It's all going to be the same. Same with step 8, the last action, that the solution sketch basically says. You don't want to recreate the wheel or reinvent or reinterpret how that starts or ends. Everyone should start from the same start and end in the flow. Then step 2 through step 7 is an interpretation of how people see the solution sketch running. Everyone has their own take. They're going to put their name and their avatar here and then start off with the first step. After the first step, they're going to put their step 2, then their step 3 and step 4 all the way across horizontally. Once everyone is done with that, they can take 60 seconds to explain how they go through their flow. And after that, there will be 2 voting sessions. The first one is to vote. Everyone gets 6 votes. Which of these step 2s seems to be the most optimal or the best choice after step 1? Same thing with step 3. Which of these particular step 3s that people have put seem like the best choice after step 2? So you do that for all of these columns. You'll have 1 vote per column, 6 votes for the first voting session. After you see the results of those, you're going to do another voting session where you're going to be voting on a single row. So depending on what those votes come out to, usually there's one solid path that people choose. You want to take that path and you want to bring it down into the final storyboard flow. And I've just kind of put a default there. But what you can do is kind of delete this. And let's say that the last person down here was the winning one. And you go ahead and copy and paste it and put it right there in the final storyboard flow. Now, after you do that, you're going to take a look back at your first voting session and say, well, how many of those top voted steps were in this flow? Chances are there's going to be like 3 or 4, but there may be a couple of them that didn't make it to this flow but are still really novel choices. So let's say that Mr. Green here decided that's he put in step 5 and everyone's like, yo, well, step 5 is really good. So you can have two choices. You can take the step 5 and drag it down into the complementary area so it's a consideration for your prototyping, or you can say, you know what, step 5, you're voted off the island, and you just basically put the new step 5 right in there, as long as the flow makes sense to do it that way. If it breaks the flow and it's a little discombobulated, what you want to do is probably take a step back and just put step 5 here as a complement or as something that it adds to this particular step. Once you get that done and figure out what your storyboard flow is going to be, you're going to carry that into the second hour, which we'll get into in just a second. In the second hour, we'll be basically working on our storyboard based on the flow we just created. And what you're going to do first and foremost is put that flow down here right underneath all of these different panels. And as you notice, there's a little spot here that says extra steps. So if you decided to put some complementary steps into your flow, that's the place for it, depending on where they're placed in the previous exercise. What you'll do first is, like the first action step was for your flow and the last action step, you're going to start taking bits and pieces from that solution sketch and place them into these steps where it makes sense to do so. So if you read step 4 and you look at the solution sketch and there's something in particular that goes there, then you want to put it there. The other thing you could do, and this is optional, you don't have to do it, but if there are particular pieces from your other solution sketches that you want to put in this space, you'll have to look back at a previous day. You can bring those back and they can be revisited as components or features in these additional steps, but your main palette is going to be the solution sketch that you were just looking at in the previous hour. And you want to make sure that all of the different components are kind of represented here. Sometimes doing a screenshot and cutting and pasting those works really well. After taking both your winning solution sketch items and putting them in this spot, and the complementary pieces from your other solution sketches, which is optional, but you can do so, you can also go back into your mood board from your previous hour and put in all of the different things that you had put there as a way of influencing how you're going to be creating the storyboard. It may be a simple matter of copying and pasting. You may put some new stuff in there, some new revelations or new things that you want to consider. Totally up to you, but this is kind of your playground and how you kind of view creating all of these particular prototype ones. Thanks to Andre Romero, I've put in some links here that he shared in a Slack channel around how to effectively do storyboarding and some storyboarding hacks that people have. The last step to configure this is to basically look at this section that says, I will be helping with this. And if you recall from our previous hour, kind of have an idea of what people are really good at, what they can do very effectively, what they're learning. And this will be a way of kind of signing up for specific things that deal with this. So if there's copy, there's design, there's flow. Have a team conversation about what work actually goes in each steps. And you'll be looking towards your designer to be sort of an art director, to kind of figure out in the entire scheme of things with your prototype, how everyone can be effective. If you see one person having their avatar in every single one of those, that's okay. Just make sure that person's representation in the prototype means that they will be doing equal work among everyone else that's there. I highly recommend you try to figure out a way to have as much work not be handed off to the designer, because it tends to kind of put the burden on one particular individual on the team. Do have a discussion of how this work can kind of be worked out with everyone concerned. And then once you do that, you can go over here to a Kanban board. Essentially, Kanban boards are a way to kind of take all the work that you're going to be doing and making sure that the focus for each team member is only on one item at a time. These are all the things to do for the prototype. Based on that, you can kind of fill those out as a team. And then once you have this kind of collage of things to do, you can even categorize them by design or development, whatever you'd like to do. It's totally up to you. But once you do, and you start to figure out, okay, if we're doing like the first panel, if the person who's in orange is kind of volunteering to do design, and this is one item that deals with the design, they would kind of put it right here in this spot. Say, okay, this is what I'm currently doing. And when you're done, you just basically take that task and put it right over here. And you'll start to see the flow of work go from the things that need to be done versus the things that are done. And you just do it, use the mural as kind of a way of tracking that. And that's it. You will be pretty much into prototyping mode. Day 3 is really all about bringing everyone together, figuring out what they can do, figuring out the flow of the prototype, and then eventually planning out all the disparate pieces of the prototype that need to come together and who's going to be responsible for getting that done on the team for team effort. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, do reach out and let me know. Otherwise, good luck on day 3, and we'll see you tomorrow for day number 4. Bye-bye.